If you're going to seriously chase a music career, whether it be part-time or full-time, regardless of what you want to do, there are certain truths or realities that you want to accept that are just going to help you be much more successful in the music industry, and more importantly, it's going to keep your mental health in check as you traverse the ups and downs of the music industry, because let's be honest, the music industry has very high highs and very low lows. Here are 5 realities that you need to accept if you're seriously going to pursue music. Number 1 is probably the most important one, and it's to accept that rejection is normal. You see the most rejection in the music industry out of any other industry in the world, and that's just the nature of the beast. The music industry is very unequitable in the way it distributes power and resources, which means the same people in the music industry are getting hundreds, if not thousands of emails every week, asking them for things, asking for promotion, asking to listen to their CD. Everyone's always trying to contact the same people. So it's completely normal that you're going to experience some sort of rejection, and it doesn't mean that your music's not good. It doesn't mean that you're not worth anyone's time or anyone's money. It just means that it's a natural part of the journey to becoming successful, and you just have to find that one powerful person to believe in you and take you to the next step. And in fact, I think rejection is a good thing because it's a sign that you're reaching out. If you're never getting rejected with your music, it means you're not pushing your music out enough. You want to be rejected because it means you're pushing your music to more people that aren't going to be as vested in you as your original fans. Number 2 is also really important, and it's that what worked yesterday will not necessarily work tomorrow. What I mean by this is that the music industry is constantly changing quicker than anyone can keep up with. Right now, the music industry is in a place where pretty much everyone involved in entertainment is just a content creator. Whether you're an artist or a musician or an actor or anything else, right now you're focused on content creation. And this basically means you have to make sure to keep up with the trends, keep up with everything that's changing, the new technologies, the new platforms, the new places where you can broadcast your music. And just because you've done something, whether it's start a YouTube channel, whether it's post a song, just because you've done something that worked, doesn't mean that it's going to work again. You hear a lot of advice about if one song works, make another song similar to it, and it's good advice because normally you want to follow up with similar sounds so people have their expectations met. But at the same time, your marketing tactics, your production tactics, anything that you've tried in the past that's worked, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in the future. So you always have to be on your toes, trying to innovate on how you pursue your dream career. Number 3 is pretty hard to accept, and there's one way that I like to look at it that helps you a lot in terms of how to negotiate with this reality. And the reality is that luck plays an enormous role in your success. Now, the way I choose to look at this is by, instead of using the word luck, use the word probability. It has similar definition and similar connotations, but the word probability gives you a sense of agency. And what that means is that you can do as many of the right things as possible to increase the chances of you being lucky. So if for example, if you choose to make your songs as good as they can be, you mix them and you master them, and then you set a proper marketing plan, you set your proper brand, and then you push it out as much as you can and try and meet the right people to help you in your career, luck still plays a role in your complete success, but you're way more likely to be lucky than someone who just doesn't release their songs and they just have some shitty music privated on SoundCloud. So even though yes, there is an element of chance to whether you can be successful or not, what you want to do is increase those odds as much as you can. And the way you do it is time plus exposure equals the highest probability of success. Exposure in terms of producing something like a song and then putting that out in the world. Keeping it private is not going to make you successful. No matter how many completed albums you have on Logic or Fruit Loops, if you don't put it out, it's just not going to be successful. So time plus exposure equals success. The 4th one is probably one that all of you know, but I want to remind you just because it's so important. You couldn't hear it enough because it's so important. It's who you know, not what you know. Obviously, you have to have a certain skill in whatever you're doing. If you're a producer, you have to have a certain skill as a producer. If you're a guitarist, you have to have a certain skill as a guitarist. At the end of the day, what determines success in the music industry is who you know. It's such a social industry, and people forget that the music industry is just people who like music vibing out together and just making money. But it's at the core of it, it's such a social industry, which means if you're a guitarist who's practiced the whole week, 16 hours, and you come to Saturday night and say, I could practice 2 more hours, or I could go to this event mixer or this gig where I can meet some industry professionals, or do this session with someone, or just hang out with this person from a different band, 100% of the time you are better off going out to these places and meeting people. It's who you know, not what you know. Number 5 is be patient. The reason why I want this at the end is because it's probably the most important realization that any creative in any field could realize. Whether you're making music or doing anything else like trying to be a YouTuber or trying to start a business, the most important realization you could have is that most of the time things happen in what feels like a minute to midnight. 80% of the results are always carried out by 20% of the output. which means that you're going to be trailing along, growing very, very slowly for a very long period of time, and you're going to get dissatisfied because you're thinking, at this rate, I will get to my desired result in 20-25 years. If I keep growing by 1 fan a day, I'm not going to have enough fans until it's been 10,000 days if you want to have 10,000 true fans. But what you have to understand is that growth in the entertainment industry is exponential. And the reason why it's exponential is because you are monetizing attention. You are not monetizing your music, even though it seems like you might be, and you technically are. What you're really monetizing, what's really going to drive your growth, both financially and in terms of your fulfillment in your career, is attention. Okay, attention is the currency that everyone is spending and trying to get right now, which means that you're all in the same race of being as patient and as competent as you can in your field, and eventually it takes like 2 years to finally gather up enough momentum that you start seeing some exponential growth. So don't get dissatisfied if in the first few months, in the first few years, you're not where you want to be. As long as you're progressing, you're on the right track, because I promise you, growth is exponential. So now that you've figured out these 5 truths, whether you already knew them and you just needed some reminding, or this is the first time you've heard these, now you want to figure out, how do you progress in music, how do you make your money, and what do you do before releasing your single? So follow me on Instagram, sign up to standclubsite.com, subscribe or die. If you want to figure out what to do before you release your first ever single, watch this video.